Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Deen and Adventure channel. This is the first episode of a podcast series. We called it Muslims in the West. In this series, we will dive into the issues and challenges that Muslims face in the United States and the West in general. The goal of this series is to clarify any misconceptions that might affect the way we look at our religion and ourselves. We will try to strengthen our identity through knowledge of our tradition, history, and values. We will also see how we can overcome personal challenges and outside pressures in order to optimize our lives both in this dunya and in the akhirah. But before that, let us take a look at the history of Islam and Muslims in America and other Western countries. Stay with me as we embark on this journey. Please subscribe and share. Welcome back. So, let's start with some statistics. The 2020 US religion census puts the total number of Muslim Americans at approximately 4.5 million, making up about 1.34% of the total US population. Islam is generally considered the third largest religion in the United States after Christianity and Judaism. 59% of Muslims are foreign-born, which is the first generation. The second generation makes up the majority of US Muslims. About 35% of Muslim adults are ages 18 to 29, compared to 21% of the overall US adult population. Let's look at the ethnic background that makes up the Muslim population. In America, the largest group, 30%, are considered whites. Who are these white Muslims? They are Arabs and Iranians. This is an interesting story how the government classified Arabs and Iranians as white. Well, here's the story. In the early 1900s, the US law said that only free white persons and persons of African descent could become naturalized citizens. George Dow, a Syrian Christian immigrant, applied for US citizenship, but was denied. The government said he was not white. Dow sued the US government in federal court. The lower courts rejected him, agreeing with the government that Syrians were Asiatic people and thus not white. But Dow appealed, and in 1915, the judges said that Syrians, and by extension Arabs from Levant, were properly classified as white persons within the meaning of the Naturalization Act. So they based that on historical and biblical associations, arguing that Syria was part of the Caucasian race, and the fact that Syrians were not distinctly different from Southern Europeans. There you have it. Arabs, Persians, anybody Arab? White. 30% of Muslim Americans are Asian, mostly South Asians, and 20% of Muslim Americans are blacks from African descent. About 44% of Muslim adults are college graduates compared to 38% of the general public. In terms of sects, approximately 73% of Muslim Americans are Sunnis. And when it comes to religious commitment and practices, about 60% of Muslim adults say that religion is very important in their life, similar to the rates of Christians in the US. Approximately 39% of Muslims attend religious services at least once a week, comparable to US Christians, about 37%. 59% say that they pray several times a day. Around 80% report fasting during Ramadan. Future projections indicate that the US Muslim population will continue to grow and may surpass the Jewish population as the nation's second largest religious group after Christians. And that will happen, they said, probably by 2040. So how did Muslim immigration start in the United States? Well, it started with the slave trade, or forced migration of African Muslims to the New World, making them one of the earliest non-Christian faith groups in the nation. The history of Muslim slaves from Africa is a vital part of American history, but often overlooked. While estimates vary, many scholars believe that as many as 15 to 30% of Africans brought to the Americas via the transatlantic slave trade were Muslims. This suggests that hundreds of thousands of Muslims were forcibly brought to the New World. The majority of them came from West and Central Africa, particularly regions with established Islamic empires and trade routes, such as Senegambia, including modern-day Senegal and the Gambia, the area of Guinea, used to be called Futa Toro, Mali, and the Hausa lands. We need to know that a distinguishing feature of many Muslim slaves were their literacy in Arabic. In the Muslim societies of West Africa, Literacy was essential for religious practice and scholarship. And this tradition is still practiced today. Some of the great Quran reciters and Islamic scholars live in Africa today. Many enslaved Muslims, especially those from ruling class or clerical class, were educated scholars. They were fluent in Arabic and could recite and write from memory. This literacy was in stark contrast to both other enslaved people and even slaveholders. Due to their education and disciplined nature, some Muslim slaves were given supervisory or skilled roles on plantations, though this did not lessen their status as property. The American system of racial chattel slavery actively worked to strip the enslaved people of their cultural and religious identities. If they saw two enslaved people speak the same language, they separated them and punished them for not speaking English. But somehow the slaves brought to Haiti were able to invent a whole new language called Creole. That way they could communicate with one another without their masters understanding. In my opinion, this was a stepping stone to the success of the revolution against the French in Haiti, which led to the establishment of the first independent African country in the Western Hemisphere. Ironically, at that time, most African countries were under some type of colonization. Back to America. And despite the grueling system of oppression, many Muslim slaves held to their faith. Some attempted to maintain Islamic practices, including praying 5 times a day, fasting during the month of Ramadan. Back in the day, most Muslims knew how to calculate the lunar cycle, traditional clothing and symbols, maintaining Arabic names that were often anglicized by slaveholders, obscuring their religious identity. The ability to write became a powerful form of resistance, allowing them to record their thoughts, their faith, and their stories. This actually challenged the assumption that all enslaved Africans were intellectually inferior. In many instances, they were intellectually superior to their so-called masters. And we do have some prominent documented enslaved Muslims. Due to their unique literacy and education, the accounts of a few enslaved Muslims have survived, providing a rare first-hand insight into their lives. Let's take some examples. Umar ibn Sa'id, circa 1770 to 1864, a highly educated Muslim scholar from Fouta Toro, Senegal today. He was captured in 1807 and transported to South Carolina. He was famous for writing his autobiography in Arabic, which is one of the only known Arabic language slave narratives in the United States, and it's now part of the Library of Congress. Bilali Muhammad, circa 1760 to 1857, an enslaved African on Sapelo Island, Georgia. He was renowned for his leadership and knowledge of Islam. He is known for the Bilali document, a 13-page manuscript in Arabic on Western African fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence. Ibrahim Abdul Rahman, 1762 to 1829, a prince and scholar from Fouta-Jalon, Guinea, who was enslaved for 40 years in Mississippi. His literacy and royal background eventually led to international attention and his freedom in 1829. Though he was unable to fully secure the freedom for his family. Yaro Mahmoud, circa 1736 to 1823, an educated Muslim from West Africa who was able to purchase his own freedom after 44 years of enslavement. He became a successful entrepreneur and property owner in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., and was known for publicly praying and in his traditional Islamic attire. The resistance by Africans in general started in the early days of the colonies, even before the establishment of the Republic. It had continued up until after the Civil War. Muslims nowadays do greatly benefit from the achievements and the struggles of the civil rights movement in which Muslim and Christian African Americans fought side by side. It's because of them that we enjoy our civil rights and freedom to practice our religion. We are literally walking on the bones of these African American brothers and sisters.
Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Moving on to Arabs. Arab immigration to the United States had occurred in distinct waves. Beginning in the late 19th century and continuing to the present day, Arab Americans are a highly diverse group. The first wave between 1870 to 1924, primarily from Greater Syria, the Ottoman province, that included modern-day Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Palestine. They were overwhelmingly Christian, Maronite, and Orthodox. They were simply seeking better livelihoods and higher wages in America, or escaping the Ottoman rule of mandatory military conscription. They settled in urban centers such as New York City, Boston, and Detroit, forming ethnic enclaves. Then came the passage of the Immigration Act of 1924, which introduced national origin quotas, drastically slowing down immigration from the Middle East. The second wave started in 1948 until present day. Wars, political upheavals, and displacement played a central role. Notably, the 1948 Nakba created Palestinian refugees. The Lebanese Civil War, 1975 to 1990, and subsequent conflicts in Iraq and Syria all created lots of refugees who came to America seeking a refugee status. In 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act, which abolished the restrictive country of origin quota system, brought with it what they called the brain drain. Many immigrants were highly educated professionals, doctors, engineers, academics, seeking better professional opportunities and fleeing revolutionary authoritarian regimes in their homeland, especially Egypt, Syria, and Iraq. All that happened around the 1950s and 60s. Now, let's talk about non-Arab Muslim immigration to the United States. It encompasses a wide range of nationalities, including those from Turkey, Iran, India, the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan, and various regions of East Asia and Africa. Early Ottoman immigrants, 1770 to 1920. While the first major waves of immigrants from Ottoman Empire, predominantly Arab Christians from Greater Syria, a smaller number of ethnic Turks and other Muslim groups also arrived. Turkish immigrants, mostly male unskilled laborers and farmers, intended to be temporary or seasonal workers, basically earning money and then returning home. And many did return home. Another group of Muslims is the South Asian Muslims. A small but notable group of farmers, including Punjabi Muslims, immigrated from the Indian subcontinent to the Pacific coast, particularly California. And this happened in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The period of modern, large-scale immigration from non-Arab Muslim countries prioritized skilled labor and family reunification, leading to a major influx of educated and professional immigrants from Muslim-majority nations across the globe. Take, for example, Persians or Iranian Americans. A steady stream of Iranian students and professionals came to the United States beginning in the 1940s and 50s, often to pursue higher education. But the largest and most significant wave of Iranian immigrants was a direct result of the 1979 Islamic Revolution. This influx consisted largely of political refugees and educated elites who opposed the new regime, including Muslims, as well as a significant number of Christians, Jews, and Baha'is. As for Afghan immigration, it started particularly after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 and the subsequent instability and wars through the 1990s and the 2000s. Lots of Afghans escaped the communist regime and all kinds of conflicts. Also, the conflict in former Yugoslavia in the 1990s resulted in a large number of Muslim refugees from Bosnia. Africa was not spared from this turmoil. The civil war and famine in Somalia since the 1990s have led to a substantial Somali refugee population coming to America. In general, Muslim Americans are an intricate part of the American society. There are too many prominent Muslims to list today, but here are some of the fields where Muslims had major breakthroughs, inventions, and contributions. Let's take, for example, structural engineering and architecture, skyscraper design, chemistry and material science, physics, laser, biotech technology, biomedical engineering, electronics and computer hardware, tech startup, software, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, foundational electronic components, advanced diagnostics, space, aviation, you name it. There was always Muslims participating in those fields. Also in sports such as boxing, basketball, football, professional golf, and so on, media, journalism, political commentary, government service and advocacy, and let's not forget politics in different levels from local to state to federal. Well, this wraps up our podcast today. I hope this information was beneficial to you. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we will discuss the challenges of identity and faith for the Muslim in the West. Please do not forget to subscribe and share. About 60% of our viewers are not subscribed. Please do us a favor and click that button and activate notification. We can only survive this attention economy through your support. Until next time, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you and your loved ones the best of this dunya and the best of the akhirah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.